Welcome to Monday Morning Methane. Today, we are very lucky to be joined by Mark Lunt. Mark is Asia Pacific Methane Scientist with Environmental Defense Fund, as well as being a scientific advisor to UNEP's IMEO. Highwood and EDF recently worked together on a report. That report was just published on our website. It's free. Anyone can access it. And the report is called Leveraging Technology to Tackle Methane Emissions. So Mark has joined us today to chat a little bit about that report. Mark, can you just kind of start by explaining what is the report, what does it try to accomplish, and what was the inspiration for writing it?
And so, the idea here was to provide a really quite a high level sort of primer in a way on the use of different methane technologies to tackle different methane sources or different scales of source as well. But the key here, being that sort of really entry level, this is something that's targeted at, whether the word's beginner or someone who's fairly new to the field. And so didn't want to go into huge amounts of detail on everything. Was really looking to keep things sort of concise and visually stimulating. Um, and so that's kind of the way it's designed. It kind of steps through, from the start at like, well, what is what is methane? Why is reducing emissions important? So starting from that basic stuff, but then the role of monitoring, the role of measurement, how that can help in terms of reductions, and then what are how do you decide if you've got a particular asset or facility? How do you decide what technology you should use to be able to measure your emissions, basically? And basically, just not trying to say this is the technology you need, but just trying to guide through the sort of thought process that might get you to that decision of how do I actually address my emissions and how do I understand what they are. And I think a lot of the inspiration for this then was in terms of and so as you say, I'm represent EDF in Australia and work across the Asia Pacific region. And in a lot of our interactions here, I think a lot of people, it's quite new in methane as a topic is quite new. There's maybe a lack of understanding sometimes in terms of how measurements or what type of measurements should be using. And so I think it's really getting at that sort of level of companies trying to make initial decisions basically on how to address methane emissions. So as they're looking at that, it's really this sort of high level, pretty entry level overview of how you can go about making those decisions.
That's great. Yeah, the quest to answer the holy grail question of how do you choose what methane technology to deploy is not a new one, and even very advanced companies and scientists and industry experts still sometimes grapple with that question. A quick one for you. You're over in Perth. I'm way over here in Canada. Both Commonwealth, but things are very, very different. When you look at the landscape in Asia Pacific in terms of methane technology deployment, I get the impression from you that it's kind of maybe hasn't moved as quickly as it has in North America. Is there kind of less technology deployment in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at North America, like you've got a really strong foundation in research as a starting point. There's been sort of over a decade now of like real development of technologies, of capacity, of people with a real understanding of how these things work. I think there hasn't been that same sort of basis in other parts of the world. Um, and so I think when you look at where a lot of the sort of service providers are, where a lot of these technologies are based, it is in North America. And so then there's there's sort of expertise and capacity in terms of manpower, but then there's also import costs, and bringing technologies into new areas is just inherently more expensive as well. And so I think there's there are sort of certain hurdles then that maybe make it slightly different from perhaps more like areas that are sort of further down the path, like in North America.
Yeah, you're speaking to kind of the challenges of technology, kind of expanding in different parts of the world. And I work at a startup. So many of these technologies are startups, and we have to start somewhere before we achieve global domination. Obviously, are there any other challenges that you've noticed in the Asia Pacific region, and how can a report like this help kind of streamline the adoption of more methane measurement?
Yeah, so I think kind of one of them is kind of touched on, which is that this is quite a new topic for a lot of people
Yeah.
and companies, and so obviously the way this document is designed is really to try and address that a bit and really just give this introductory overview here on the benefits of monitoring and reducing emissions, and essentially steps you can take to move towards that. I think, yeah, as the other one, I mean, in terms of technology available, it's about making those like good decisions as well. Obviously, as you mentioned, like is everyone's is still like a thing, an issue everyone's grappling with. But I think if we don't necessarily have like the whole suite of technologies available right now, a lot of it might be an easy fallback to say, oh well, I've got satellite data available, I'll just use that. And I think it's just trying to, really try and show that, well, maybe that's not going to achieve everything that you're after. Just by
Uh,
using the most easily available technology right now might not be the best result long term.
yeah, you need robo dogs. Everybody needs robo dogs, I think. Yeah. There's a consent. That's the only consensus, is that robo dogs are fun. Um, so we talk a lot about methane measurement. I think there's a lot. I'm a measurement nerd. I'll admit it. But the ultimate goal is mitigation, right? We want to get to a point where we're actually reducing emissions, and measurement is honestly a means to an end to get to mitigation. So when you look at Asia Pacific region, how do you think about mitigation? What are the opportunities to advance mitigation in that area, and how do they differ from other parts of the world, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think um, kind of opportunities. One is obviously in terms of just recognizing the opportunity, and I think the document kind of plays a bit into that and just trying to help increase that kind of awareness as well. And I think a good marker of this is things like OGMP membership. I think we're seeing increasing number of companies across the region as members. So here in Australia, we've basically got every major producer apart from one are signed up. If you look in sort of Southeast Asia, a lot of the big NOCs, Petronas, Pertamina, PTTEP, they've all signed on. So I think that that kind of recognizing the opportunity is really starting to grow. Um, Obviously, then part of that is then implementing sort of measurement techniques, but then actually having targets and mitigating those emissions as well. And so I think the first stage now is really understanding where those mitigation sort of opportunities, the sort of lowest hanging fruit is. I think that's something we don't, without the measurements, don't necessarily have a clear idea of in a lot of the supply chain. And then, I think one of the big things about the region is the LNG supply chain here. So if Asia Pacific, we've basically got a lot of producers towards the south of the region, so Australia, Southeast Asia, and then big users in the north, so in Japan, Korea, China. And so there's a lot of influence, I think, that those buyers can also have. And again, starting to see that through something like the Clean Initiative, which was announced by Japan and Korea last year, where they're now really starting to take an interest in the methane intensity of their LNG supply. And so I think that's a really powerful, it's not just about the producer countries, but it's also about sort of increasing awareness, changing attitudes, and so on in the buyer countries as well. So
Hmm.
we can kind of have that influence on both sides
Hmm.
to help reduce emissions.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that so many companies in APAC had already joined OGMP. Would you say that in the region, the majority of kind of leading producers are already already participating in these efforts, or are there others who are laggards in that sense?
I'd say, yeah, it's not going to put, yeah, can't quite put like an exact number on it, but yeah, I'd say a lot of the major producers, particularly for the LNG production in the region,
Hmm.
are signed up. I think, for most of them it's at early stage, so sort of year one, maybe year two now, still grappling a bit with like, yeah, how do we actually achieve gold standard? I think that's not
It
going
gets
to be
harder. Yeah.
not a unique problem for
Yeah.
Asia Pacific, but yeah, and so I think starting hopefully to see the progress, obviously that in terms of commitments, but then yeah, hopefully we can start to see some progress in terms of emissions reductions as well.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Last question for you, Mark. So, you kind of alluded to the fact that this report might not be the most useful if you have a double PhD in methane emissions. It's more high level. Who should be reading this report? Which of our listeners should be downloading it? Who did you really intend for it to be targeted to?
Well, I think first things, if you just like nice graphics, I think I think you should take a look at it, because I think there's some really cool graphics in there, and I think that was kind of part of it, right? We wanted it to be kind of visually interesting. It's not just
Hmm.
a 10 pages of text. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, I think for that for that reason, anyone could should take a look at it. But yeah, I think it's really aimed at those, like you say, those who are new to methane. Potentially, listeners are not going to be in that category. But yeah, for those maybe like decision makers within companies who are thinking about, oh, how do we make decisions basically about how we invest in methane monitoring? Like, what are the steps we should be going through, and so on to make those decisions? And I think that's really what it's getting at. Just really trying to provide a sort of roadmap, decision trees about how you can make good decisions, I guess.
that's great. Well, I would encourage everyone to download and read the report, even if you do have a double PhD in methane emissions. We're going to post the link in the comments so that it's easily accessible. Mark, congratulations on getting this out. It's a great resource and both needed and appreciated by the methane community. And thank you so much for joining Monday Morning Methane.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Okay, take care.